Mr. Coffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Um, uh, Dr. Sharon, I've got a question for you. You were talking about how we calculate homelessness, and I think you had, if I quote you, you said certain homeless veterans populations, and then you went on to say elude current methods of calculation. What populations are you referring to? And what do you think the true number of homelessness is? And
Well, I think you actually got the wrong doctor.
oh,
I'll hand it over to him, but let me just say real quick, I think that we have to recognize that our estimates of homelessness are rough. You know, when we do the point in time count, we get a sense on a given night how many veterans we're finding basically in the streets. First off, there's a whole year that we're looking to kind of estimate. Secondly, there are veterans that elude these techniques and these radars. For example, post 9/11 veterans, I would say in large part, and female veterans. But
okay, Mr. Landis.
no, that was yours.
So you asked for the actual number, and I don't know. But you asked about the population, and as you might imagine, as the number of homeless veterans that are known, I'll speak to Philadelphia, to be in Philadelphia, those that are more elusive might actually be choosing to live on the street for a whole host of reasons. But as we find appropriate housing, some of those folks are the most difficult people to find appropriate housing and care for. Significant mental illness, chronic and prolonged substance abuse and dependency. They are at a stage in their recovery where so it's called pre-contemplative. You're not even considering the idea of abstinence from substance use. So those are the folks that I think no one really has figured out what long-term appropriate housing and care looks like, and I don't know the number.
Isn't the if we talk about the majority of the causes for veterans homelessness? I mean, when I left for my first overseas assignment with the United States Army in 1972, came back for my last overseas assignment with the United States Marine Corps in 2006, and so, but I never went to Vietnam. In that population, a conscript military, very intense war, a lot of drug and alcohol issues. Doesn't the majority of homelessness right now come from that generation of veterans?
The generation that we're serving predominantly is from the Vietnam era. But within the last year, we went from 5% OEF, OIF veterans to 10% OEF, OEF veterans. So that's steadily and significantly increasing. And those guys haven't hit bottom yet. They're couch surfing. They're being incarcerated, often related to substance use. But your comments, and actually the comments about military sexual trauma, if you can expand the idea of trauma just from combat to complex trauma that occurs on the street, there's something implicit about being homeless, that there's a threat of violence and interpersonal violence on a regular basis. We know there's a dose-duration relationship between trauma and all of the problems, including homelessness, that come along with that.
Well, any effective program for homeless veterans, doesn't it have to include a mental health component, particularly in substance abuse?
You would imagine so. So if I had another choice today, I would say allow the VA to outstation mental health care providers. We're not allowed to provide psychotherapy. So there are evidence-based treatments for post-traumatic stress disorder and a whole host of other disorders related to trauma. We can't provide that service directly. We drive guys every day to the VA if they can get an appointment. But if mental health care providers could be outstationed to our facility, I'll even pick up the occupancy cost, right? So we can try to find money, but if you could provide that level of care, yes, it's necessary. And then a longer discussion is about trauma-informed care, which is a culture change.
So it's about I don't want to use the term outsourcing, well, I guess I would, about reimbursing private providers for providing the care, or nonprofit providers for providing the care.
That would be an option, although I got to tell you, the VA has a whole branch that focuses on implementation and evaluation. So if mental health care providers are given the training to provide evidence-based therapy for specific disorders with some flexibility about context, because that's relevant in implementation, I would suggest that before giving me money to go hire a therapist. The VA is able to monitor what therapies are being delivered in what way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.